Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel. We're going to be making a fairy birthday card and mixing a few sets here. So I'm using the My Favorite Things Stitched rectangle set that I got not too long ago. And I'm cutting out a piece of paper from an Easter paper pad, the Hoppy Easter from Doodlebug Design. And another size from Spiffy Speckles from the more teal blue. And the largest size from the Stitch rectangle set is just a little bit smaller than a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. So that's going to be just leaving a little bit of white from the base around the edge. I think I was brushing off some little die pieces that didn't scrape away. And then also from that blue piece that I cut out, I'm also going to run that through Stitched Windy Backdrop just to give it kind of like a sky. And I'm going to be adding grass as well. So I'm going to take green and cut out another rectangle. And then on that rectangle, I'm going to run the grass through the die cutter so I can get this bottom piece of grass. And that's just one of the Lawn Fawn grass sets. I think it's from the Hilly set where they're more rounded. And then we'll also be using Fairy Friends. And then this wood stump is actually from a Greeting Farm set called Cuddly Thanks, because I wanted just a plain wood stump, and that was the one I thought of in my stash. And then also the cake, and then an extra candle and a cherry from Birthdays Take the Cake that I got recently from My Favorite Things. And I already colored this cake and tested out a new technique that I got from Davina from Popsicle Sticks on Instagram. I will link her down below. She's been doing a great white dot technique, so you'll see me doing that a little bit later on some of the images, but I had already colored this cake just to test that, and then I decided to use that cake in this card. And so then I just stuck down the purple background. I'm going to stick down the blue sky portion, and then I'm going to use my ATG gun along the bottom of the grass and then stick that down to the bottom so we have grass and sky. And then also, even though I did on the cake for the brown, I'm going to be using, I did use Spectrum Noir, but for the rest of the coloring, I'm using my Keyboard 80, the set of markers I got from Amazon. I do like them a lot. I wish there were more closer color combos, but I did a review on them not too long ago, if you want to scroll down and find that in my videos. But the only non-keyboard marker on the cake was the brown part. Since it's a chocolate cake, I had used a combo from my Spectrum Noir set, but the rest of it is keyboard. I used a purple combo and then a blue combo on the candles and then some orange and yellow for the flames. And then I'll be showing you which of the keyboard markers I'm using for the rest of the coloring. So for the wood, I just figured I would put the darker color kind of around the edges and then just along the wood lines, whatever lines were drawn into the wood. And then I went over it a second time because the dark had kind of faded a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that they were accented. And I probably could have left it here without blending out again with the lighter color, but I went over that and did it anyway. I do like the way these blend. Someone had commented on the review video more recently saying that they thought they blended kind of streaky, but I'm not getting that from these. This is the same color I used on the candles before, so I'm going to be coloring the extra candle with the same combo. There's a chance that they could have gotten, a different batch or something of the markers, but I think these blend great. Most alcohol markers do. I think the tip on a cheap set would have to be pretty cheap or terrible to cause the blending, because the alcohol ink itself kind of does the work for you if you have some sort of awful tip. which I haven't come across on any of these cheap alcohol marker sets I've got, because I probably have about 5 now, then that would really be the only cause. Or if the colors are really not close together and it looks awful is another example. So I'm using Fairy Friends from Lawn Fawn. And when I went to go die cut them out, I realized I must have been using Frosty Fairy Friends more often because I hadn't cut apart like a number of my dies. I don't know why. It was very weird. I just felt like I had already cut them all apart at some point, and I hadn't. So you'll see me cut apart a couple dies. But I was probably using Frosty Fairy Friends a lot more. But I really love this set. And they're going to be adding the candle and the cherry onto the cake. They're going to be holding it like they're decorating the cake and flitting about in the air. I was tapping my fingers looking for color combos. I'm trying to show you what I'm looking for here. I'm trying to do kind of like a blondish, dark blonde. Some of the yellows, there really isn't like a good bright yellow combo here, so I'm doing kind of a dark blonde blend with these two for her hair. And then I also go back with the darker color and try and kind of add like lines or streaks to make it look like she's got a little bit more going on in her hair. I don't know. They don't look that great, but they blend out again anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Just to give it a little bit more texture. And then on, for the wings, I think I'm doing her face now. So I'm trying to pick the two that are going to go together. I did color some of these out of order, so I kind of have to look across the chart. There's salmon pink, and then the next marker I hold on it for a little bit in the camera because this is not okay. Copic figured it out and changed their names. Now the other companies, I don't care if you're a crappy alcohol marker from China, just fix the names. It's not accurate. Then for her wings, I'm trying to find the lightest blue. I didn't want to have to bring a Copic in. So what I'm doing instead of like for Copic, I would probably use like B0000 or something, the very lightest blue I have. But I'll just take the lightest blue and then use the colorless blender that comes in the set just to kind of spend some time blending out the blue. So it kind of looks foggy or, like a see-through wing or something like that. And then I decided to, instead of using the same blue on the other fairy, I decided to use the lightest purple and blend that out. So their wings are a little bit different. And the blender works really well. It doesn't, bleed into anything else or it holds up really well on the ink as well. I'm just using Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm using a brand new ink pad, so they stamped very well. And then for hers, there are a number of pinks in this set, but I'm trying to look at the chart and get a good combo. It might be a little bit bright, but the color that I blend it with kind of dulls it down a little bit, so it's not so bright. And it's not my favorite combination, but it still works out. It's still pretty cute for what it is. I could have gone through and blended the dark in one more time, just to make sure that it showed through. And then I'm trying to find a darker skin tone for the other fairy, and I'm trying to figure out what would blend well with 21 here. And there really isn't a whole lot. I think I end up going with, I'm not sure. I don't know if I choose 49. I probably sit here a little too long. I might have grabbed 33. I can't remember, but we're going to start with 21. I don't know that I showed you. I might show you after 21, yes. So 21 I used first, and then I went with 31. And it is a little bit different, but it still gets, you know, kind of a darker skin tone comes through. And then I'm going to do a brown combination for her hair. And I'll start with 91, which I believe was one of the colors I used on the wood stump, but now I can't remember. And then 21, which was the first number I used for her skin. So it'll be the lighter color in her hair, and it works out pretty well. And then I'm going to use the, I believe the same combination from the candles, the 66 and the 67, for her dress. And these aren't too far apart. They do blend together pretty well. I probably could have gone, I think I do go over it again. There we go. I decided that they were too close to each other, but you can still see a tiny bit of the shading. So I'm going to cut these out, and I do show you. I don't always show you my stamping or die cutting process just because I feel like some of it is basic. If you ever, you know, need some instruction on stamping or die cutting, feel free to let me know. But I feel like for a majority of you that are watching, you don't necessarily need to see me do those things, and I don't want to waste so much time in a video. Stamping or die cutting, I think people like to watch coloring a lot more and things like that. This is where I realized I hadn't cut these dies apart for the most part. And I really don't know how, because I feel like I've used these guys before. But maybe it was the winter set. I'm not sure. So I'm just running them through my mini die cutter. That is a lot easier than using the regular sized one. And then we'll stick all of this down to the card. I end up adding a couple flowers later too. So you'll be seeing that towards the end. But we'll be putting the card together for a little bit. And then adding the white dot accents. So you'll get to see that as well with a new technique. And I love the way it looks, and it's very fun to do. So out of like the 5 or 6 of these glues that I have sitting on my desk, I bought extras for card class just to make having enough glue at card class easier. I realized that one was never opened. I thought I opened all of them. That's a close-up of the cake I had already done with the white dot accents. So the idea was to have the cake up on the stump in the forest and have them making a magical cake in the woods. And since the other fairy with the blue dress already has a blue dress, I put the blue candle in the other fairy's hands, and I gave the cherry to the other fairy. I didn't want to do too much blue. So they're just going to kind of be floating in the air, decorating the cake, cleaning up some glue that squeezed out. And then I'm going to just put some glue kind of in the middle. This glue is very liquidy, and it also creates a lot of bubbles, so sometimes it's hard to work with, but luckily the point that it comes with is pretty pointy, so I can pop any bubbles and work with that. And then for the candle, for the flame part of the candle that she's holding, I was trying to get it to stick down, so I was trying to add some glue underneath it, and then I held it down and it still didn't want to stay. So I actually end up reaching for my box of micro dots that I just got in order to the Lawn Fawn Magic Iris interactive die works best with, I think, the micro dots, and so I had bought some of those, but they'll also come in handy. So I took a micro dot off of the strip and just shoved it under there, so it's like a glue dot, but it's very, very small, which is helpful. So those have come in handy a lot. So before I add the flowers, because I decide there's not enough on the card and there isn't room for a sentiment, I'm just going to leave it as it is and put the sentiment inside once all of the dots dry. But to do the white dots that I learned from Davina, she's Popsicle Sticks over on Instagram. You should go follow her. Her cards are amazing. And she also sells them, and so you can own them. So we're going to take some white acrylic paint, very cheap, and I have a little dauber. This just happens to be a Stampin' Up! Tool where you can kind of remove the end. This is the smaller dotting end. There's another one on the inside. You can flip it where it's bigger. I found that I can probably get 2, maybe 3 dots out of each one, but because it's a little round metal ball, it only contains, or holds so much paint on it. So it is, you can almost go back each time you make a dot for more paint. But usually 2 is good. And then if they end up a little thin, like if it's not enough paint, you'll notice it'll start drying within a minute or 2. And then if it ends up kind of falling flat, you can just add another dot of paint on top of it and it will look just fine. So you can play with it. Hopefully you have some sort of dotting tool. You could find probably something in your house if you don't have a tool like this. I won't say toothpick because that's very little. Maybe if you have those different toothpicks, maybe the other end of the toothpick that's a little fatter, if you have that weird kind of toothpick, or anything. I can't really think of anything else, but something in your house that has an end like that, if you don't have a similar tool. And it just looks really cute. On the cake, I still did the white lines with my gel pen, but here I am deciding to, I just wanted to let you know I was going to stamp and then die cut out the sunflower and the tulip. I think that's a tulip. But I didn't want the video to be that much longer, so I just cut that out. And then I'm showing you the coloring. So I found the 2 best kind of yellow colors that would be good for a sunflower out of the Keyboard set. And then a brown and then a much lighter color for the middle of the sunflower, which I usually recall being like a brown seedy area. So it calls this dark yellow, which makes no sense, but it's brown. That's fine. The names on cheap alcohol markers are never going to make sense. Sometimes they're spot on, but most of them, I have no idea who named them because it is very inaccurate, but it's fine. As long as you have a chart in front of you and you know what blends with what, then you'll be fine. So then I just found this green I really like from the set, and then a lighter green. They're not too terribly different from each other, but they're different enough. So they blend well together, and the other one looks a little bit lighter. So that works for me. Very pretty minty green, kind of. And then I tried to come up with another purple combo. I went with the lighter purple from the cake frosting combination to an even lighter purple to blend that out. And it is kind of a different purple. One's bright, one's kind of muted, but if you blend enough, you can get it to look, I don't know, purpley blue. So the video, my phone cut this video into 2, so I'm going to end up finishing the white dots on the flowers in the next portion. Hopefully it's kind of smooth as a transition, and I'll catch you at the end. Okay, so this is just the last portion of the video. I'm just sticking down the flowers where I want those. The sunflower is going to come off of the blue sky background just a little bit because I didn't want it to crowd the fairy too much. And then we're going to use the paint from before, and add the dots to our flowers. And I'm just kind of adding them in 2s or 3s and trying to make sure I add just 1 in certain places. But the double dots are actually pretty cute as well. I don't know if I added more. Yeah, this one needs a little bit more. So it's just a fun, cute technique. Thanks to Davina for showing it to everyone, and I hope you try it. And if you're either struggling or you with your like white gel pens, or you just want something new, feel free to test it out and let me know. And thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.